Good morning, Broncos fans. As we're getting all the live streams connected here, just want to say welcome to the show for those that have joined. And if you are here with me in the Mountain Time Zone, or if you're around the world, you're a Broncos fan, and we are glad to have you on the show. So, welcome and thank you for joining. I'm your host, Thomas Hall, bringing you Legends of Mile High, which is a podcast that blends Denver Broncos current events with a historical perspective. And again, the ultimate goal is to always keep the storied history of the franchise alive, even in the minds of the most recent of fans. And today, I'm going to be joined by Broncos Fan of the Year, Ron Katz. Good morning, Ron.
Hey, Thomas. Good morning.
How are things going this morning?
Pretty good. I think, 60 days till the first game of the season?
It is coming right up. I'm excited. I'm excited for training camp. I'm excited for preseason. And of course, excited for the live games that are going to be happening. A lot of primetime games going on. How many how many Broncos games do you think you're going to attend this year?
Way too many than I should be able to afford. Because I was last night, I was actually showing my cell phone flight itineraries to folks, and I think there's at least four road games
Wow.
already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obvious that that you are a huge fan of the Broncos. You're a fan of the year for 2021 for Broncos. Can you tell us a little bit about how you became the Broncos fan of the year?
Your guess is as good as mine. But actually, I'm very, very humbled and very honored by that. I'll tell you about that because for those listening, there's going to be an opportunity by the end of this month, possibly on the back to football on the 30th, when all the teams are doing their training camps right around then. A colleague who's seen me pay forward, as you know, I go to a lot of Super Bowl weeks, kind of on the cheap. Happy to give people tips if they'd like. I've paid a lot of stuff forward or had a chance to go to some events, and I've gotten people into them. And one of my colleagues at work has just seen me come back with all the swag and try to do good things and get everyone revved up for Broncos country. And she nominated me for Fan of the Year last year. I thought nothing of it. There were over 2,000 entries for the Broncos country. By comparison, some other fan bases got maybe 750. And
Wow.
yeah, and there were 30,000 across the other 32 NFL teams, is my understanding. So to get selected, like I'm still like, who, me? Really? Like there's so many amazing, like I could name 100 people literally in Broncos country who would be equally, if not more deserving, in my opinion. So I'm still blown away by this.
That sounds like an incredible honor for sure. But I do want to go back to something that you said before we get into some of the other topics that I have in mind. You said you were able to attend Super Bowl weekend on the cheap. So if you don't mind just giving a little bit about for fans, how that happened, how you were able to do that. Because we all know it's a very expensive endeavor to go to the Super Bowl.
It should be. And now the operative word, Thomas, is the word to versus the word into.
Okay.
Okay. I've been into twice, and the Fan of the Year helped facilitate that for me. As that was one of the prizes where you got to go to Super Bowl weekend, which was fantastic. But back in 2001, I thought, boy, wouldn't it be cool to go to Super Bowl weekend in New Orleans and wear my Broncos attire. I was trying to push Terrell Davis for the Hall of Fame. I've worn his jersey for a long time until they finally said yes. And I was able to pull it off by getting a reservation for the weekend that was the alternate weekend that it got switched to. And it was relatively cheap. And it's just evolved over the years where I've used opaque travel sites like Priceline, Hotwire, hotel points, just whatever resources possible to go to the Super Bowl host city and enjoy all the stuff happening during Super Bowl week. Not so much the weekend. That's when the hotel rates get real expensive. That's, you're talking about a nosebleed ticket now, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. No. I'm not talking about spending 10 grand. But, and the other thing is the cities roll out the red carpet from the weekend before to all throughout Super Bowl week, if you've watched NFL Network or whatever. So there's a way to do all that stuff and like get a hotel for $80, $90 a night from the weekend before to at least Wednesday, Thursday, sometimes Friday, and just soak it all in and being TV show audiences. Um, just unique experiences. Peter King is very gracious with his time and does an event in every host city that's very nominal and benefits charity. So it's just an incredible thing. And this is, if I do Arizona, that'll be 17 of the last 22. It
Wow.
started out as like, wouldn't it be fun to go to New Orleans for a weekend? To it created a monster. But you know what? I'm only one doing this, right? I'm running through the city all in orange, and people are like, "What are you
Nice.
doing there? Your team's not there."
Well, maybe this year. Maybe this
Oh
year
yeah,
they'll be there.
but I'm
There's
proud to rep.
there is a lot of buzz and hope for the Broncos this year, obviously, with Russell Wilson coming in. I know you've probably, how long have you been a Broncos fan?
A long time.
Yeah, probably similar to me. I've been a Broncos fan since the early 80s, got hooked during the drive. What do you before we start talking obviously about Randy Gradishar, because I know you are a huge fan, a huge supporter of his induction to the Hall of Fame at some point. But give me a little bit of your take on this year's Broncos team before we get into some historical topics.
I was so excited when we acquired Russell Wilson. I know there was a lot of talk about certain other QB or other QBs, but he, all of us have had work situations where like there might be good people, but things just aren't clicking, or the culture's just, it's a downer or something like that. And that's kind of what we've all been experiencing in the last like 5 years or so, despite the best efforts of folks at the Broncos to turn it around. Russell Wilson, as you've seen in the last few months, is such positivity, is such, we can do this, and upbeatness. I mean, and that's, it's going to affect both sides, actually all three sides of the ball, the coaching staff. It's just, it's going to be a different aura. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story.
Sure,
I
absolutely.
went to see Russell Wilson play in Houston in December. Okay. And we've had a lot of great players in Broncos country who will interact with the fans after the game, maybe throw some gloves, high five, sign an autograph. Russell Wilson, after he did, the post-game TV interviews, literally went to the far end of the stadium and walked around the whole perimeter to high five fans, like just completely around the stadium, to take selfies, just thank the fans for traveling to see him and his team play on a road game. I thought that was, I've never seen anyone. I mean, nothing against any of the other greats, but like that's who you're getting. It's just gonna be incredible. No matter the result on the field, I think it's gonna be better, but it's gonna make everyone better. I mean, Russell's like that kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything I've seen, I've not met him personally, but everything I've seen, he's a great person, a winner, and he strives for excellence. And I think Broncos fans should be very excited about those three pieces, because you're gonna have a good person who also can lead your team to a Super Bowl, is what we're all hoping. So man, I think I think we're in for a great year. I think Broncos fans and Broncos country is going to be very happy with the product that's put out on the field this year. Let me ask you a couple more questions here about some Broncos, of the past. Randy Gradishar, obviously, biggest snub in my book of many snubs of the Hall of Fame. What are your takes on why he isn't in? Do you think this is his year? And what are his chances? And anything else you want to partake from Randy Gradishar? I know you've met him a few times.
Yeah, I'm very, very optimistic. The big thing the Broncos country needs to know is how many franchises in the NFL have been in business more than 20 years. So you're talking about 30 teams. and look at our Ring of Fame and look at some of the players that are not in the Hall of Fame that we'd love to have in the Hall of Fame and multiply that times 30.
Yeah.
That's kind of the challenge for the seniors. And if you go back a little bit, it was not a lot of the Hall of Fame inductions have been of guys who played compiled stats, played 12, 15 years, and so on and so forth. And so Randy was at 10. A guy like Kenny Easley, who was incredible, was at 7. We all know about Terrell Davis. So that was held against some of the moderns when they're trying to make apples to apples. It's changed quite a bit lately. But specific to Randy, the other thing that Broncos country needs to know and fans need to know, and if there's any Hall of Fame selectors out there, hi, please and thank you. But what we need to know about Randy is sometimes we forget to ask the question: was he great? Was this guy dominant? Did he play in a golden era for his position, inside linebacker, middle linebacker? Which, by the way, at the time, I'm not sure if you're aware, it only had one slot for All Pro and All Decade because it was kind of, you only had one guy in the middle kind of thing. When Mike Singletary won it, starting like in the mid '80s, it was multiple players. So that diminished Randy's chances for some of these honors. Also playing in Denver versus, let's say, Chicago or with the Dynasty Steelers. But this is a guy who dominated. If you watched a game in the '70s or '80s, my goodness, like it was, you just, to know where the play was, you just looked for where 53 was. And, you know, he was All Pro 5+ times, Pro Bowl 7 times out of 10 years. And that's when it wasn't like the 15th alternate made it. And when players
Right.
really, really valued it. And it meant something. Now, I've met him a few times. He's the most humble person ever. He's not someone who's like, look at me, and I'm going to grandstand to try to get in the Hall of Fame. But the guy dominated, and in terms of all decade, which was one of the criteria that a lot of the selectors use, it was Dick Butkus at the end of his career. He did win Defensive Player of the Year honors, like as part of that decade.
Right.
You also had Jack Lambert, 4-time Super Bowl champion, same draft, same career span as Randy, and then Mike Singletary. So it was a golden era. And so he didn't make all decade, which didn't make him a slam dunk for the Hall of Fame. But I think now selectors and historians have recognized this is something that's 20, 30 years overdue.
Right. I mean, and talking about the golden era, I mean, he definitely, I talk about that all the time. Like the inside linebackers today are, they're kind of a diminished role, but back then they were the heart and soul of the defense. And Gradishar is the only player who's won Defensive Player of the Year and at least 5 Pro Bowls and at least 2 first team All Pros that is not in the Hall of Fame. Everybody else that's done that, that's eligible, is in the Hall of Fame. So Gradishar definitely has been waiting far too long. What do you think of this year? Do you think this is his year now that we have 3 seniors coming in?
I'm optimistic, but I was super optimistic based on all the information in 2020 when they had the centennial slate. And the centennial slate, unfortunately, if you look at the 15 players, contributors, coaches who got in, not one of them played their career west of the Mississippi or Dallas. So that delayed things for like the Raiders, like Tom Flores, CU's Cliff Branch, Randy Gradishar, Don Coryell. So I'm really optimistic. And actually, I'll let you on a little secret.
Okay.
Way back in January, I missed on sending my holiday cards. So I sent New Year's cards to various people who've really made a difference for me in the last year with a little photo collage. One of those people was Jim Porter, who's the new president of the Hall of Fame. And I basically begged, not for Randy, because you have, again, you have 30, 32 fan bases, and everyone has their guy or guys or multiple guys, right? And I just said, look, please, you can't have repeatedly Cliff Branch posthumously going to the Hall of Fame,
Right.
Pat Bolin posthumously going to the Hall of Fame. These folks they were great. They need to enjoy this with their families while they can, and please expand the Hall of Fame from 1 to 3 for these seniors who've been overlooked. And so I'm optimistic. There's a lot of buzz around Randy, but until you hear an announcement, you just don't know. You can try your best. And I've been, as you know, very feverish on social media with everything within my power to try to move the needle.
Yeah, I've watched you all of your I've been on some podcasts with you talking about Randy Gradishar. I actually think it's his year. I'm going to knock on wood, but man, I actually also thought the Centennial class was his year as well. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that he gets in. Are there any other seniors besides Gradishar that you hope to see to get a little more buzz down the road, especially after Randy gets in?
As far as the Broncos or NFL?
Broncos players.
Well, and that's the thing that's so frustrating, that we're having to wait this long for Randy, because someone like Carl Mecklenburg is your guest on your last show. He's someone who really deserves to be in the Hall of Fame and may have been overlooked because he played like Randy to an extent, he played the entire front seven and sometimes in one game. And so, when you're giving honors out, well, was he a linebacker? Was he outside, inside? Was he a nose tackle? Or is he defensive end? He's someone who's absolutely great. And then, of course, you have the Louis Wrights, Rich Tombstone Jackson, Dennis Smith would be someone in consideration as far as like the seniors. And I know I'm probably missing someone great, and I'm sorry if I am.
That's all right. No, I mean, all those names definitely Broncos legends. And, like you said, we got to get some of these other names in, especially seniors, so that we can start talking about some other deserving candidates. It's a shame, and I've talked about this plenty of times, it's a shame that we have to talk about Randy Gradishar so much, because he should have been in long time ago, so that we could be talking about the Tom Jacksons or the Louis Wrights, some of the other candidates that really maybe aren't slam dunks, but are deserving. So hopefully this is his year. We'll get on to some other names, get some more Broncos in there. Broncos country will be very happy about that. I'm going to ask you something outside of the players. Maybe it has to do with players. What's your most memorable Broncos moment?
Oh my goodness. Like that's like in the hundreds.
Well, just pick one fun, good, or any kind of story that you want to tell is fine.
It's something that dovetails to Hall of Fame, actually. I mean, there's so many great things on the field. I mean, Peyton Manning, like just such a privilege to see him come here and play at the level that he did. It was like watching a video game. It was like watching a quarterback who had like in his helmet like a camera to the blimp up above to see where all the players, like the way he could process stuff, and his greatness was incredible. And of course, the 2 championship games he won, and the fact that the Broncos have always won AFC championship games at home, with the exception of one. Hello, folks in Kansas City. We don't know what it's like to lose multiples within a few years. But I'll tell you one memorable moment. 2017 Super Bowl week in Houston. And I mean, I was on the front page of the Houston Chronicle, rocking my Broncos pride and how to do Super Bowl week on the cheap. And it means a lot to be able to pay that forward and let people know the tips on how to do it, that you don't have to spend gazillions of dollars. But as part of that, I got to go to a few TV shows. I met Jim Brown at a autograph signing picture thing. I met Terrell Davis at the Rich Eisen show, and Rich had told me, come back tomorrow. TD's going to be here. So I'm rocking my TD jersey, and people were running over to TD to get autographs. I'm not one to go running for autographs. Rich Eisen picks up a microphone and is like, TD, this guy's been here for 2 days. You need to see him first. But the other thing is, at that show, before, I was rattling off his elevator speech for the Hall of Fame. Like if you doubled his 8 games in the playoffs, I think it came out to 24 touchdowns, 2,320 yards over a 16-game season. Pretty significant. That's greatness, right?
Right.
So the next day, I went to Peter King's event with John Clayton, Chris Berman, Mike Pereira, and some others, and no one was there. They weren't ready to set up. So Peter said, "Well, does anyone have any questions?" Well, here I am jumping like a jack in the box up with gave the elevator speech to Peter King, and Peter said, "Look, I'm starting to think about it. His shorter career was kind of a little bit of the impediment, but with Kenny easily getting in, you know, the needle's starting to move." But we had a great conversation afterwards, and like 2 days later, when the announcement came out that TD was in, I was almost in tears because, being one of the lone Bronco people running around during Super Bowl week and being able to do my small part in something that happened in a positive way, it meant a lot because TD deserved to be in the Hall of Fame, and the needle moved.
That's wonderful. Yeah. We'll have to maybe talk about giving you some credit for that because
Ah,
it was hard to get TD in, and obviously he's in now, which is great. A lot of people are starting to look at some of these shorter careers, and maybe someday that'll people start to look at Rich Tombstone Jackson. Had a very short career, but was at one point one of the best players in the NFL. So who
well,
knows?
can I add something with speaking of Rich Tombstone Jackson?
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
and, and and those of you out there who are in Denver, a Denver Broncos QB club is amazing. They will have alumni like Rich Tombstone Jackson, Carl Mecklenburg, and so forth. So Rich was at a luncheon meeting of theirs a few years ago and was trying to describe his style, and he said, "I love to make my style was I'd like to make love to the quarterback."
That's interesting.
Well, hey, if you've ever seen him make love to the quarterbacks didn't exactly feel like that was love.
Right. Phenomenal player. I think it was Dr. Z that had him back in the day as a Hall of Famer. He didn't get in, but ranked him as one of his best players of all time. So maybe we'll get some buzz going for Rich Tombstone Jackson at some point. Who knows? There's a lot of deserving Broncos. You made a point about Broncos QB Club. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's a group that dates back to the 1960s, almost to the first year of the Broncos. I think it's like 1962 or 63. They're close to 60 years themselves. And it's a great group of people, diehard fans. In Denver, they try to do a semi-monthly or monthly luncheon when possible with some folks from Broncos country lore, whether it's alumni, whether it's like media members, um, and some great Q&A and some great stories. Steve Watson was a recent guest, and Craig Morton was a recent guest. Watson told a story when he was coaching in the Pro Bowl with Mike Shanahan, and Chad Ochocinco Johnson was intent on playing defensive back in the Pro Bowl, and they were like, "We'll let you know." And at the end of the first half of the Pro Bowl they were coaching, all of a sudden one of the DBs was out, and they were like, "Well, wait a second, we only have 10 guys on the." Oh God, there's 85 in the huddle. So he some really great stories and some really great excitement going, and they all.
Well, it looks like we lost Ron. Something. Oh, there we're back. All right. Had a little
Oh,
technical difficulty there.
am I still here?
Yes, you're back on.
I was going to say with the quarterback club, they also own some season tickets, and they have like a lottery for members, and you can purchase tickets, for a couple games a year and like on occasion, and they're like really close. So it's some tremendous experiences.
So if you're a Broncos fan, look into the quarterback club. You live in Denver. You get opportunities to go see legends of Mile High.
Yeah.
talking at luncheons. You get opportunity to get your name in for some good seats at Broncos games. So check it out. It's definitely worth your time to check it out. Been around for a long time.
And
I definitely would do it if I lived in the Denver area for sure. So
yeah,
I
and
just
yeah, Thomas, they're on Twitter. I can't remember their exact handle. The other thing that's really cool is Tom and some of the longtime members have these jerseys, game worn jerseys, not just stuff that looks like it's throwback. It's throwback because someone worn it. And they bring these to the luncheons, and it's just immaculate. But you'll see them post on Twitter. Right now, they're doing the 1980s, like a different player from the 80s, and it's just immaculate history.
great. So just wanted to give you a shout out here. If you want to follow the fan of the year for the Broncos, Ron Katz, you can follow him at Ron N. Cap Hill on Twitter. Always insightful information, especially when it comes to Broncos legends and, of course, Randy Gradishar for sure. Do you have any other stories from when you were at a game or meeting a player that you want? I know you mentioned Steve Watson. Any other stories you want to share about some Broncos legends?
Well, I got one that's it's about Randy Gradishar, to be honest.
Perfect.
Um,
Perfect.
so I actually, and we're talking Denver Quarterback Club, right? So I met him for the first time ever at the Denver Quarterback Club February 2019 luncheon meeting. I'd just come back from Atlanta, where I was a nonstop shill for Pat Bowlen, as I had been for the previous 2 years, and of course Champ Bailey. And so I asked Randy about the Hall of Fame, and you could just see the disappointment in his eye. Like, I'm not gonna get my hopes up and then find out it isn't happening, kind of thing. And I remember getting up and saying, "Look, if I have anything to do with it, we will get you in." Like just real like defiance. So fast forward to December 2019, we're playing the Lions. I have a first row seat in the south end zone. In fact, I was sick. I think I might have had COVID before COVID actually completely
Man.
blew up. But I was like, I got a first row seat. You know what that's like, Thomas. You're not like saying home with that. So I had my sign kind of like this, but a little bit bigger, up by the railing, thinking maybe it'll get on TV. Centennial class is coming, right? So I don't know if I was tweeting something or taking a picture or distracted. All of a sudden, I feel someone like hit the sign and say, "What is this?" or "Who is this Grada whatever?" And I'm like, "Well, Randy Gradishar, he's one of the greatest." And I look up, it's Randy Gradishar, who's got a great sense of humor and is known for pranks back in the day. The stories like Louis Wright told about him at Q Club are legendary. And Randy said, "Don't believe anything Louis or any of those guys say, but they're probably true." But just that kind of connection. To me, it's the experiences, and that's why during Super Bowl week or otherwise, if I can get like an extra ticket, or if my sticky hands can get an extra goodie at the stadium turnstile when they're giving stuff away, and I can pay it forward, whether it's someone in Canada or someone in the
Sure.
UK, you, it, I've done it, or across the US, because Broncos country is all of us.
That's
And
right.
like I said, the fan of the year thing, that meant a lot because of who I'm representing. But that fan of the year, that's all of us. It's not just me. I mean, I'm just so humbled and am grateful.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this. Mile High Huddle talks about all the time. Broncos is a state of being. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're a Broncos fan, you're all part of this tribe of Broncos fandom. So I really appreciate how well you represent Broncos country, being the fan of the year. I appreciate all that you've done for Hall of Fame Broncos that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. So I really appreciate it, Ron. I really appreciate you coming on the show, talking a little bit of Broncos. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up the show?
No, I want to thank you and Mile High Huddle, for this opportunity. But also Broncos country, please, if you see anything about Randy Gradishar for Hall of Fame, especially for me, there's a hashtag out there, Gradishar, FORPFHOF. We need to get that hashtag kind of very live out there. And also, there are 12 selectors who are on this seniors committee. We need to get a hold of them. But please, if you do it, talk about the goodness of Randy and why he belongs, not anything negative about other players who might be being considered, or like there's anything negative about the selectors, because they have a tough job. There, like I said, there's 32 fan bases who all believe they've got 4 or 5 guys who should be in, and there's some fan bases like Cincy that only have one player in the Hall of Fame. They're like the Broncos when Elway got in. So
That's right.
we need to stay on it and keep Randy like visible every day while they're doing this voting. They're voting in the next like 10 days or so to
Right.
get down to, I think, 10 or 12, and then they're going to get down to the 3 in person. It's so important that we, as Broncos country, do this together and just keep that hashtag and Randy's candidacy visible, why he should be there.
That's right. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. We got a couple comments here. Jeremy Sean's a supporter of the show, been here almost, I think, every show. Says, you can tell Ron's a classy guy. Thank you for representing Broncos country so well. I think that is a great thing to say. Also, another one, Michael Ronquillo, said good morning to you, and he's a supporter of Broncos country. So if we can all band together and keep Randy Gradishar's name out there, get a lot of buzz going. I know that some people say that doesn't do anything, but it actually does.
It
the
does.
more people that talk about Randy Gradishar, the more chance he has of getting into the Hall of Fame. So like Ron said, get that hashtag going, talk about Randy Gradishar, talk about his achievements, and be respectful again, but definitely let's see what we can do from Broncos country to get a legend of Mile High, another one, into the Hall of Fame. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you joining, Ron. And we're going to wrap up the show now. So again, thank you. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed your stories, and we look forward to seeing you at more Broncos games and on the road supporting Broncos country
in London. I'll see ya. Thank you so much.
Thank you.